All right, so today I'm gonna have a little bit of a rant here, I think. And this has kind of been building for a little while. It's something that I have seen a lot, and just wish it would kind of stop. I'm gonna ruffle some feathers on this one. So a lot of times people will give advice and they give it under the guise of helping, but I don't think that they realize how unhelpful it can be, or even how discouraging it can be. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of these things, as a matter of fact, because it's really starting to bother me. I see it in a lot of comments on the bigger channels, that kind of thing, and it's really bugging me. So you hear a lot of things about how if you're not using this, or you are using this, or you're doing something this way, or you're not doing it the normal way, that your paintings are not going to be good, or you're going to struggle, or you're going to have inadequate results, or you're going to have, I guess, something less than perfection. I'm not sure. But it's really starting to bother me. So I just want to talk about a couple of these things, and maybe relate it to a few other things. First one that I hear a lot is, if you're not mixing your colors on your own, that you're not an artist. If you don't just use a primary palette, then you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I'm gonna get more into this mixing thing in another video, but I just want to say that's BS. There's a lot of reasons that people may not want to mix a color. Me personally, I have ADHD, and I will spend more time trying to mix a color and make sure it's the same every time than I will painting. I would get so lost in that mixing because my brain would latch onto it that I would never get anything else done, or I would constantly be dissatisfied with the results because the mixing would either take up too much time, or I would feel like I wasn't matching it exactly each time. There are plenty of reasons that people may not want to mix their own colors. You know what? Daniel Smith has 266 colors, and if you want to own every single one of them and that's what you want to use, I say go for it. I own a lot of colors. Some of them are similar, some of them aren't. That's cool. Stop speaking down to people because they may not want to mix colors. They may not enjoy it. Maybe they don't understand color theory. You don't know. And to imply that that's the only way you can do that, or that somebody's somehow less than because they don't want to mix their colors, is a load of crap. The next thing, cotton paper. This one is going to set me off. So, I clearly have cotton paper. I clearly have Arches, which is supposed to be the end-all be-all of cotton paper. I don't like Arches paper. I think it's overpriced. I just don't care for it, if you want the honest to God truth. I think there's other papers out there that are also cotton that work better for me personally. I don't think Arches is worth the money. And I'm tired of people saying, oh, well, you have to have cotton paper, or your stuff's never going to look right, or you're never going to learn control, or you're never going to whatever. That's a load of crap. There are some good cellulose papers out there. You know, I see so many people talk about, oh, well, if you're not using cotton paper, it's bad, and there's so many ways to get it. Okay, well, there might be that many ways for you to get it, but you have to remember, not everybody's in the same position. I have been very fortunate that when I started this watercolor journey, I could buy some of these nicer things. I could buy the extra colors that I wanted and not have to mix, because I don't like mixing. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has that access. Not everybody has the money. Not everybody has a card that they can order online. You don't know what somebody else is going to need or what they have to do to get what they have. Y'all need to stop. Just stop. I'm so tired of hearing this. This one frustrates me to no end. I have a few cellulose papers that I actually still like. Now, I do normally use a cotton paper. I tend to use the New York Paper Company from Jerry's, in part because I was close to a Jerry's and I could get it easy and it's not ridiculously priced. I like that paper. Like I said, I don't like Arches. My favorite paper is still the Kilimanjaro paper from Cheap Joe's. And I am so many kinds of crushed that Cheap Joe's is no more. And I'm desperately hoping that somebody else picks up that line of paper because I think it's the best paper that you can actually buy. There are still cellulose papers that are good. There are also blends if that's what you can get. In the end, if you're not comfortable with using cotton paper or expensive paper, you can't get it, you don't want to get it, whatever. That does not make you less than. And the idea that it does really, really sets me off. You know, painting should be accessible for everybody, and not everybody's going to have the same access and the same wants. Not everybody wants to become a professional. Not everybody wants to be an expert. Some people just simply want to paint. And if they want to paint on cellulose paper, y'all need to shut up. That said, this paper, I don't think I can get it all in frame. This Stonehenge paper actually is pretty well rated across the board. I hate this paper. This paper sucks. Getting tape off of this paper gives me nightmares. It doesn't matter if you heat it up. It doesn't matter what you do. It's gonna tear every single time. I hate this paper, but a lot of people really like it, and that's cool. If they like it and that's what they can get, by all means, please use it. It is also 100% cotton. I think it sucks. I would rather have the cheap stuff that I bought at Walmart from the B Paper Company over this crap. It's just that simple. The same kind of goes for journals. I see a lot of people talking about your journals need to be cotton, that kind of thing. You know what? Your journal is basically a sketchbook. I would recommend buying a journal that's 140-pound paper because it holds water better. But if you can't get your hands on that, then you can't get your hands on that. Or if you're not comfortable spending the money for that, that's okay. So these were my first journals, these reflections journals. These came from Jerry's. I have filled up a few of them. They're not cotton paper, but you know what? When I was starting, these were great because I didn't feel bad about using them. So if somebody wants to use a journal, which is just your practice book anyway, and it's not cotton, leave them alone. Just stop. I can't. Brushes are another thing. There's a lot of people who will go on and on and on about what kind of brush you can use or should use. And brushes to me are very personal. So I'm going to give you a for instance. This is the Black Velvet Silver number 8. It came recommended from a few places, people who really love it. I don't like this brush. It's not nearly snappy enough for me. The tip isn't pointy enough. It holds an okay amount of water. I don't like this brush. I've used it a few times, realized I don't care for it no matter how much people think that or talk about how great it is. And I'm actually about to pass this on to somebody else. And if she likes it, cool. She's got a brush that she can use that she really likes that works for her. I don't like it. You know, a lot of people really harp on, oh, you need a size 8, you need a size 8. Honestly, I use my 6s and I have a size 7 that I really like and that I use more than most of my size 8s. And part of that is because they tend to the ones I've had tend to have a little better tip on them. Whatever works for somebody is what works for them. It's what they can get. It's what's handy. Do brushes make a difference? Absolutely. Does cotton paper make a difference? Absolutely. But if you don't have access to that, or this is a hobby and you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, cool, rock on. We all started somewhere, and if you just, you're looking at working your way up, that is fabulous, and I say you do it, because that is something that is for you. It's not for everybody else. And people need to remember that. So, I also hear a lot of people talk about professional paint versus student grade paints. Again, whatever you're comfortable with using, Cotman's out there, which is a Winsor Newton brand. Winsor Newton's a fabulous brand. Their Cotman paints are perfectly acceptable. In one of my first videos, I mentioned the Mai Liang paints, which is what I started with. Again, they were awesome, perfectly acceptable, no issues. Oh, who is it? There's another one out there, Da Vinci maybe, I want to say, don't hold me to that, that has a student grade line of paints that is a little cheaper. If that's what you want to use, that's what you're using, whatever, that's great. If you are using a set of paints you got from Five Below because that's what you have, that is awesome. Are those colors going to be exactly the same as some of the other paints or maybe the more expensive paints? No, but that doesn't make what you're doing less than. And I think that's my biggest frustration, is that they present some of these things and really truly make it sound like what you're doing is less than. And I don't like that. That really, really irks me on so many levels. There's a lot of people who will tell you, oh, just get pans. I personally don't like pans of paint. I prefer tubes. That's a very personal choice. I think the tubes are a better deal, especially if you're buying like the 15 mil tubes. Those tend to last longer. You can obviously put them into a pan and let them dry, that kind of thing. For my money, I want the tubes. I like the consistency better. I think even on re-wetting, they re-wet differently. Maybe it's all in my head, kind of like people who think M&Ms taste different, but that's my preference. Some of these things that people say are simply a preference, and they forget that. They forget that there is often multiple ways to do something, multiple ways that are perfectly correct compared to what they're doing. And that frustrates me. The other thing I really want to mention for people who are feeling discouraged or getting upset that they don't have the proper equipment, remember that there's a lot of bad paintings to get to a good one. You know, I've started multiple things, didn't like the results, sometimes gave up on them, and they never went anywhere else. Sometimes gave up on them, came back, recovered them a little, sometimes said, screw it, I'm out. There's a lot of stuff that isn't going to go the way you want it to go, and that's okay. Too often we get very caught up in, oh, well, this is a bad painting, or this didn't go like I wanted, or I shouldn't paint this again. Sometimes it's just practice and figuring out which technique which technique is going to work. I just did a galaxy kind of painting. It's not my best. Does it completely suck? No, not my best. Not happy with it. I'll try again later. Yes, it was done on cotton paper. But not every painting is going to be perfect. And those are the things that too often we don't get to see. You know, we watch these tutorials and we watch these channels and we see all these people who've been painting for years and years and years, and we think, oh, how come mine never goes so easy? You don't know what they've got set up. You don't know what they've done ahead of time. You know, I was watching a thing on Bob Ross the other day. For every painting he did on his show, there were 3 versions of that painting. 3. There was the one he did beforehand, there's the one he did after or on camera, and then one that he did after. And the one that he did on camera was usually not quite as good and as steady as the other 2 because he was on a time crunch. He had other things to worry about. He was talking people through it. Those are the kinds of things that we don't see behind the scenes. And again, I don't think people mean to be discouraging on some of this, but they really can be. And I want to talk about, I guess, in context. So many of you who know me know that I actually spent a lot of time doing a lot of costuming stuff. I did a lot of cosplay. I was with multiple groups that would do things like visit children's hospitals in character, or do a lot of, with the Down Syndrome Foundation, we did their buddy walk every year, that kind of thing. We did superheroes, we did princesses. etc. And I taught myself how to sew doing costumes. And I remember wanting to do a costume at one point, and I can't even remember which one it was, I won't lie, and seeing comments on a really, really, really well done costume, well-known cosplayer, and so many people saying, oh, you're just the best, whatever character it was. Nobody else will ever top this. Nobody else will ever beat this. Nobody else will do it as good as you. And I know they meant that as a compliment to that cosplayer. And I don't think most of them stopped to think about how discouraging those comments were when you were starting out. Or maybe when you weren't quite up to the skill set of doing something specifically. It was never meant maliciously, I don't think. But those kinds of comments and those things where you say, oh, well, it's never going to be as good as if you did X, or as if you used the cotton paper or anything else, can be very discouraging to people, especially when they're new. And that's not okay. It's just flat not okay. And I'm going to liken this to some well-known guitar players who are lefties, and they did not have access to a guitar that was strung for a left-hander. So they had to learn using their right hand instead. It doesn't make those guitar players any less of a guitar player. Most of them are excellent. But they had to learn it differently because that's what they had in front of them. That's what they had available to them. So it's the same when you're doing art. If you don't have access to cotton paper, that's fine. Use what you have. And you know what? There may be some techniques that you kick ass at that somebody who doesn't use the cellulose paper isn't going to be as good at because they never had to work for it like you did. You may find that you learn these techniques on something else, and when you finally get to using the cotton paper, wow, this is now a breeze because the paper's different and you're not fighting with it. But if you never move on to that, you are no less an artist. You are no less a badass for picking this up and wanting to learn something. And please do not ever let people tell you otherwise. Like I said, I don't think a lot of these people mean for this to be discouraging, but it really can come off that way. And I don't like that. I want art to be all inclusive, and I want everybody to be welcome in it, and I want everybody to feel like they have the chance to produce the results they want to produce with what they can get and what they have available to them. So the next time somebody asks for advice, or somebody, you're looking at something and you're, giving comments, remember that not everybody has a desire to be professional. Some people are just trying to do this for fun. Some people are just kind of going with what they have access to. Not everybody is lucky enough excuse me, to have access to some of those things that y'all think that they should. So that is my tirade. That is my soapbox. Do with it what you will, but maybe it made you guys think, and maybe people will remember to be more careful with their words.